So good evening everyone, I am Teresa Maya Masunado, and tonight I am going to discuss our OOP assignment 2, and our chosen system is inventory system, and I am assigned to create the login design, the user class and login frame, and the landing frame. So first is we have to design our login page. So this is how our login page will look like. It has a username field, password field, and a login button. So next is we have to put some functionalities on this design. So let's create a user class first. We have to import the SQL library, import.java.sql.*, and then we will start creating our user class. We will first initialize the variables that is needed to access the database. Initialize the URL. We will place the name of our database here. Next, we initialize username. This is the username for our database. Then we initialize password. And this is the password for our database in order to log in the user. We will create a login user method that requires two string variables, username and password. And this block of code will check if the username and password combination exists on the database. So first is we establish connection to our database. We initialize a query. And then we prepare the statement for us to bind the user's input into the query. We then initialize a result set for us to store the data and execute the query. We then check if the result set has data, and if the result set is set empty, that means the user entered the right credentials. And then we will return true if it is empty. We will return false. So now we need to use the plugin user method into our login frame. So first is we import the Java Swing library for the alerts. Then we're gonna initialize a user variable and a landing frame variable. Then in the constructor, we're gonna set the login frame to visible and its position to center. Then, this is the login part. We are gonna initialize a username and password variable that will fetch the value from the username field and password field. Now, when the user clicks the login button, this method will be performed. So, we will check if the login user method returns true. If it returns true, we will then create a new instance of the landing frame and dispose the login frame if it returns false. And this message alert will be displayed. Let's see it in action first. I will enter some wrong credentials, then I will enter the right credentials. So landing frame this is what our landing page looks like. We got items, stocks, sales, purchase, invoice, and sales. Sales logs button, and we will first initialize these G frames, the stock frame, items frame, stocks frame, invoice frame, sales frame, and logs frame. And we have to create two constructors. This one does not have parameter. So the other one has a string parameter. Both will set the frame to visible, but the second constructor will change the title of the current user that is logged in. And now let's try to see it in action. And that ends by discussion and our assignment on OOP2. Thank you and good evening.
I will discuss the items button and the stocks button. So the items button will only show the items. It will fetch from the database and show the items. The stocks button will show the stock list. It is the same as items button. It will only fetch from the database and show the items. The only difference here is the refresh button. So here is the source code of the items and the stocks. First, in the items source code, we have to import the java.esql library. This library is used for the SQL and import.net.proteanet.esql.db utils. This library is used to fill a table from the database. Public class items frame extends javax.swing.jframe is our constructor. Inside our constructor, we have initialized components, which are those JButtons, JPanels, JTable, and etc. Second, the set visible. This is to make the frame visible, that's why the value is true. Third, the set location relative to null. It is used to make the window center. Fourth, the item list. This is the method that will fetch the data, then will put it to the table. Private void item list. While loading the frame, since it is stored in a constructor, it should call the item list method. URL. String URL is like a credentials for our database. So URL is the location of our database. We define the whole path, which is the local host, and the name of our database, which is the DB inventory. String username. String username is the username of our database, and string password is wala siya value, so wala password ang ato ang database. Try catch, this code is a try catch code. So try connection con equals server manager that get connection value niya is dbURL username and password. This will try to connect the database. After trying to connect by using the credentials, which is our string dbURL. So if there is a connection, manhi siya dire. So if there's no connection, dire siya. And it will print the error. So let's assume nga naa siya connection. So here is the code. So again, this code will establish a connection from database, din ibutan niya sa try catch na block. So pag naay connection, masulod siya diri sa string query. So string query, so this is our query. So we have two table here, but we join them as one. Is the select item code as code, item name as name, item description as description, supplier name as supplier, item price as price, from table items, table suppliers, where item supplier equals supplier ID. After that, we already have our query. Next, we initialize a statement variable. So we have to put it in a statement variable. The value of statement variable is create statement, so it will create a statement. Result set rs equals statement that execute query. This is the one that will handle the data. The value of result set is the one we created earlier, which is the create statement. Then it will be executed the query. So the result of the query will be putted in RS. So after executing, iya din na ipakita ang table, which is katong table items kani. So dira ibutang ang result sa query. Kung naay sulod, ibutang niya. Pero kung walay sulod, ibutang niya pero wala siya sulod. Of stocks. Stocks frame and the items frame have the same library. This library is for the SQL, and this library is used to fill the table from the database. So public class stocks frame extends chatbox.swing that G frame is our constructor. So inside our constructor, we have the initialized components, set visible, set location relative to null, stock list, and the stock list. Initialized component are those JTables, JOption pane, and etc. Set visible to make the frame visible, that's why the value is true. Set location relative to null to make the window center. And the last one is a method that will fetch the data and will put it to that table. Private void stock list. It should call the stock list method. So string DB URL is like our credentials from the database, and the URL is the location of our database. We define the whole path, which is the local host, and the name of the inventory, which is the DB inventory. String username is the username of our database. String password is the password of the database, but we don't have a value here, so our database is no password. Our database have no password. So this line will try to establish a connection from the database. So let's assume nga na siya connection. So here is the code. Kani siya diri. So after that, diri siya mosulod sa string query. So in our string query, we have a two table, which is the select item code as code, item name as name, item price as price, stock quantity as quantity, plus from the table items, table stocks where item ID is equal to stock item ID. We initialize a statement variable, so we have to put it in a statement variable. So the value of our statement variable is a create statement. So result set rs equals statement that execute query. This is the one that will handle the data. The value of the result set is the one we created earlier, which is the create statement. Then it will execute the query. So the result of the query will be putted on rs. So if there is no connection, it will print the error. So after executing, iyahan na dayon nang ibutang sa table. Kani, dira niya ibutang ang result sa query. So this is the code for the refresh button. Kani. It create and display the form. Hello everyone, I will now discuss to you the sales and sales logs. So as we click the button sales, we can see here different fields with item code, sold to, quantity, the item info. So as we put here the different values, example code 002, and click the search button, so we can see here the item name and their price. So after that, we will have to put the name and the quantity. So after that, click the button confirm sale, and we can see here the message that the item has already been sold. So clicking the clear search will clear all the fields, and we can have another input. So code 006, search, then we have here the item F and the price, which is 600. So name again, John, and the quantity. So we can see here that the code 006 is already been sold. So clear. After the sales, we can see here the transactions in the sales logs. So in sales logs, as we can see here, we purchased this one, the code 002 and the code 006. So we can see here the name, the date, which date we purchased it, and the total of the product. So after this one, I will discuss to you the codes of this application. So salesframe.java. As we can see here, there is a variable sale. So this variable sale will initialize, and we can see it here in the sale.java. Here is the class, the public sale. So after that, this sales frame method. This sales frame method, as we can see here, we have here the set visible true and the set location relative to null. So set visible true means that the design or the whole application will be viewed in the desktop, so we can see it. Then the set location relative to null means that our application will be posted in the center, so it will be displayed in the center of our desktop. So the next one is the clear search method. All the fields in the sales will be set to null once here the clear button will be pressed. So again, code 001, search, Angel quantity 1. So as we click confirm sale, as we see this, then this is the clear button. So as we see the clear button, as we click it, we can see that the item code, the sold to, the quantity, item info, all of it will be cleared. After the clear button has been clicked, the method button clear here, so we can see here the method of the button clear. So here, button clear action perform. So it is since we call this clear search. So after clicking this the clear button, the fields will be automatically be cleared. So the next one is the button search. Button search. So here we can see here the method of the button search. This method will be called when the search button is clicked. So here, the search button, as we can see here. To continue, the search item method. So it will then initialize an array which is temporary with a length of 4. So here, as we can see here, this one. So this method will just return an input if the item is available in the database. This line of codes, this will try to connect to the database with the use of these credentials, so this one. After connecting to the database, the statement, this one, the statement variable will set its query and will prepare the statement. This is the use of the question mark here. You can see here the question mark. Yes, it's because it's this sign will help let the query prepare the statement. Here the question mark, and we have here the prepared statement here. In the statement that sets string, we set it to 1 because there's only one question mark, and that was declared, and that will be declared this one, that will be declared its position, so it will be the first. So going back to the sales frame.java, we'll find here the input search frame, input search. So as we can see here in this line, we can see an input underscore search method where the value of this method will be stored in this one, the search item. So at item.java, this one, the result set rs is equal to statement that execute query. The result will then be stored in the rs, this one, the rs variable, if ever there is result. If it returns true statement, then if there is none, then it will return, of course, it will return to null. Here, as we can see here, else, return to null. If so, this one, if the rs next, if the variable rs has its next action, that it will provide the following fields. This one, the item name, item ID, item price, and the supplier name. Or else it will return a null result if it can't find nothing. At the sales frame.java class, since it is stored in the temp variable, it will either return an array, this one, an array, or null. If it returns an array, it means that the product is existing in the database. And of course, if it returns null, then it means that it isn't there. As we can see here, the info name and info price was set and is assigned in the array 0 and 2. So here, we can see here, because 0 and 2 will, this one will get the value of the array 0 and 2. It will then be displayed in the return item statement in the item.java here. So we have here the 0 is the item name and 2 is the item price, as we can see here. Then it will show here. As you can see here, the item info, the both these fields can't have any, we can't input any amount or values. It's because we already set it here in the sales frame, so it will only get the value in the database. So else here, so else sales frame.java. So if we can't find the item, then this will show the error message. The item cannot be found in the database, or the search error. So button confirmation. Here, we can find here the button confirmation. So first, we have to check if the input name, here, we have to check the input name, the input quantity, and the search item if it is not empty. So again, in the try statement, it will again try to, here in the, here in the try statement, we can, it will again try to connect to the database to get its values. So again, we can find another question mark here. Yes, here, the question mark. So, which means that we have to prepare the queries again to bind the ID here. So you can find the ID. After binding the value of the question mark, it will now be replaced with the value of the ID. So here, if it is updated na. Execute the query and it will be stored in the variable rs. So after this one, going back here to salesframe.java. So after that, it will check, confirm, save. So I'm sorry, it is here. Yes, the check stock. So after that one, after executing the query, it will be stored here in the variable rs. So then it will then check the result. If there is a result, then it will get the values from the first column of the database, or else it will return to 0. Here to the salesframe.java class. So if the return of sales is greater than 0, then there are more stocks available. So else, if 0, then it will return a statement that the product is out of stock. So here. So the total purchase. In total purchase, if the sale confirms, the total purchase is computed by the quantity times the price. Here, you can see here. This one, item has been sold already. So in confirm sale, we go here at the sale.java class, confirm sale. Here, confirm sale method. So first is it updated the stocks here, ID and the quantity. And if the stocks are updated, then it will return true or false. So here, as we can see here, it's updated. Intro is updated, and like that. This line will now insert its values to sales log table. The transactions will now be recorded according to their types, the product code, the name, date, and the total price. So here, sales logs na ni siya. Code, the name of the buyer, the date, and the total. So going back here to logs frame.java class. This line, import Java SQL, and this line, the import net.protean init.sql dbutils. So it is for the database. So from the database, it will then convert directly to the table. So as usual, we can see here the set visible true and the set location relative to null. So the log list here, it will fetch the data in the table sales. So here table, select this line from all. It has no question mark because it will only, here we can see any question marks here, no, in our try statement. So it has no question mark because it only fetched data from the database. It will now set the queries here, setting the queries again. Set the queries and store it in the rs variable. So table the underscore logs, this line. It will populate the table and store the data from the variable rs. So in this line, it will convert the rs into the table model. So here, this is the table model. So lastly, we can see here the so lastly, there is a refresh button here. So it will just call again the log list so that it will refresh the new set of log sales. So if we ordered something and we didn't see it here in our transaction, so we just click refresh and that would be all. So that would be all. Thank you.
Hello, we're going to show you, or I'm going to show you, the codes that will involve in our OOP assignment. So I'll just show you first how the program, the flow of the program. So we'll type admin, then password, which we set. Okay, so here here in items, we will see the codes, the name, description, supplier, and the price. So that's the main fields or attributes that we need to learn in the item. In the stock, in the system, this will show you how many quantities, or this is the inventory itself, how many quantities each item with a code, name, and a price. So this one is the quantity. Then if the sales, if you want to, and if somebody bought an item, let's say code number 1, if you search it, you can see the price. You will put who you sold the item to. Let's just make an example. Then quantity, if I will order 10 pieces, okay, item has been sold. So remember the stocks a while ago, it shows 70 in code number 1, yes, but now it's already 60, so it is already deducted because we purchased from it. Okay, now same with purchase. If you want to buy item, from the supplier. If you purchase, let's say, another 10, then item has been restocked. So let's go to stocks. It goes back to 70 pieces because you ordered 10 pieces from the supplier. Next, the invoice. It will just display the restock, the date, the total, and the sales logs. Who are the ones involved in the system? You sold it to who? So that it will keep track of the records of the items that you sold. Okay, so this is what our system looks like. So it is already not just inventory, but you can do POS instead. Also, okay. About the code, I'm assigned in the invoice. So this is the code of our invoice. This one. So just initialize the variables, the DB URL, which you will link it to the database, which is in the PHP My Admin DB inventory. This one, which has 6 tables: the table invoice, items, sales, stocks, suppliers, and users. So each table, it has its attributes. It already have an entry because we already assigned this one here. It is already saved in the database. Okay, we set the users. This one, this is the one that you will use when you log in. The first thing that you need to do is you set it first in the database. So you set this one as your username and password in the database, so it will just run. Let's see, if you will not use the example, if you will not use the username that you set into your database, it will not run. See, it has errors. Okay, so let's go back to the database. So this one, the invoice, we have the invoice ID, the invoice date, the invoice total, invoice item name, and the invoice type. We have restock or new purchase. Let's go back to the code. So this is the code for the invoice. So we have package inventory app, the Java SQ. You need to import this library so that we can access the SQL that this one. We have the public class invoice because we are in the invoice. The string, this one will just link the inventory, the username, password. Then we have the boolean save invoice, string name, the total, and the string type, which is a prepared statement here. The set ints, the set string, to string. We need to query because we need to insert it. If we have an access, we need to insert into table invoice. Every time we access the invoice, we insert into table invoice, which will insert the invoice date, total, invoice item, invoice type, and the values. Then the int rows updated is execute update. Then we have a condition here. If rows updated is greater than 0, then return true, else return false. Then catch print stock trace. Then this is the code for the invoice. Actually, all of these codes has been explained by my other group members. They're different, different, what you call this? They're different assigned because they're uh just same process. So this one, save invoice. We need to do that because in this here, I know, in our database, we need, because we need to query here, we need to insert it in the table so that it will update in our system when we run this one. So another is the restock frame. So we need to import inventory app, the library. Then we have this code, string search item, new string. Because in the restock, you need to search the code. Okay, here we have stock restock frame. We are going to extend the swing Java frame because we made a stock frame, which is the frame of the GUI of the system. The init component set visible true. Yes, we need to set it true so that we can see it. Set location relative. Okay, this is just part of the frame or the display. So private void, clear button, clear action performed, the first event button, that's one. This search item, then we have the input name, the price, the supplier, and the search. Oh, we have all these declarations. Then we have a public void. Oh, this is the main one. We have a statement here. If temporary is not equal to null, then this will search the input that the user will make. Else, item could not, if the items is not found in the database, which is, of course, it will display an error message. So it will show this one. This one. If there is no item, wait, we have that one. This one. There is an error message that item could not be found in the database. So we need to input an item or a code that will be searched, just like here. So that's all. Thank you, ma'am, for watching, and I hope you'll enjoy our system or you will understand our system. Thank you.